For decades, humanity had been the beating heart of the Galactic Council, the warm voice in every discussion. The species that joked when meetings were too tense, that offered peaceful solutions when war loomed, that protected small civilizations from pirates, that negotiated peace between old enemies, that filled every hall with laughter and energy, earning a reputation as the most cooperative and open species in known space. Whenever a crisis appeared, the galaxy looked to humans first, not because they were the strongest, but because they were the only ones who truly cared about others. They were loud, friendly, emotional, unpredictable, and brilliant, and everyone believed that would never change. Until the day it did. On the morning of the largest council summit in a century, every species arrived prepared to address a disturbing new threat from the outer rim, ships disappearing, strange energy storms, unknown signals drifting through empty space like whispers from another dimension. Panic was rising. Empires argued about who should act. Some demanded military reinforcement. Others asked for research teams. A few accused each other of hiding information. But when the humans entered the chamber, the entire hall, with representatives from 50 civilizations, fell into an uneasy hush. Normally, humans entered smiling, waving, carrying data pads under one arm and coffee cups in the other. Today, they walked in slowly, quietly, without expression. Their uniforms were darker, their faces calmer, their steps more controlled. Something was wrong, and the galaxy felt it instantly. The council elder struck the ceremonial bell to begin the meeting, his voice steady but curious as he said, "We shall hear the Terran Republic's assessment of the situation." And for the first time in living memory, the humans did not respond. They simply stood there, silent. Their delegation, 10 representatives wearing sleek black diplomatic suits, did not look panicked, did not appear angry, did not raise a single question. They simply watched, just watched. Their calm, focused eyes moved from one arguing alien to another, as if observing them like distant stars in a dark sky. Seconds passed. Minutes passed. Panic spread like ice through the chamber. The representatives of the Swarm Coalition whispered, "Why are they so quiet?" The ancient crystalline beings of Vorail murmured with trembling tones, "Humans never hide emotion. This silence is unnatural." The reptilian Kalari leaned closer and hissed, "Their silence is worse than war." The council elder cleared his throat, trying again, "Terran delegation, the galaxy seeks your advisory response." Still nothing. No blinking lights on translation devices. No exchange of glances. No flicker of emotion on their faces. Just deep, unreadable stillness. As more species began to whisper nervously, one young diplomat from the Felorian Empire stood and shouted, "Why will you not speak? Are you angry? Are you leaving the council?" But the humans did not turn, did not react, did not answer. Then something even stranger happened. The lead human representative, a woman named Alara Stone, lifted her hand slowly and pressed a button on her wrist. Every human translation device across the chamber shut off instantly. The humans bowed silently to the council. A small, respectful bow, but somehow colder than a threat. Then they turned around and walked out. 10 humans, 10 silent figures, moving with the haunting calmness of soldiers who already knew what came next. The entire council chamber froze as the doors slid shut behind them. Dozens of species stared, stunned and terrified, as the lights flickered above them. No humans remained. No explanation. No message. No goodbye. A chilling silence settled in the massive chamber, thicker than fog, heavier than fear. What does this mean?" A trembling aquatic ambassador whispered. "Humans do not walk out," another added. "They talk. They argue. They smile. They never stay silent." Ancient species who had lived for thousands of years exchanged fearful glances. They had seen many things, survived many wars, endured many disasters, but never in the galaxy's long history had humans chosen silence. Silence was not their nature. Silence was a warning. The council elder stood shakily from his seat. "We must contact the Terran government at once. Something is wrong." But before he could activate a comm link, Every emergency beacon across human space lit up simultaneously on the holomap in the center of the chamber. Red lights, flashing, hundreds of them, then thousands. Entire sectors of human territory locked down at once. Gates sealed, borders closed, civilian routes shut, fleets repositioning with terrifying precision. "What are they doing?" a frightened ambassador gasped. "Preparing," whispered a Vorail scholar, her crystalline body dimming with fear. "Preparing for something they knew before we did." Across the galaxy, alarms quietly activated. Terran military stations went into blackout mode. Research worlds dimmed their lights. Entire colonies entered silent protocol. Even Earth, the most open world in the galaxy, cut off all off-world communication channels. And through all of this, not a single human said a word. Not even one. Silence became a storm without sound. The council scrambled. Species rushed to their ships. Panic whispers filled diplomatic channels. But there was no answer from humans. No clues. No demands. Nothing but unbearable stillness. That night, across 1,000 worlds, alien children asked their parents, "Why aren't the humans talking?" And every parent answered the same way, voice low, trembling, praying they were wrong. Because when humans go silent, something terrible is coming. Across the galaxy, fear spread like a cold wave the moment humanity closed its borders, and every species, strong, weak, ancient, young, felt that same strange tightness in their chest as if the universe itself was holding its breath, because humans had never shut the galaxy out before, never turned off their channels, never pushed their fleets into formation without announcing why, and the mystery behind their sudden silence became a shadow bigger than any threat the Council had ever faced. On Helion Prime, the Council chamber erupted into chaos after the humans walked out. Diplomats shouted over one another, demanding answers the galaxy simply didn't have. But nothing reached human space because every Terran relay responded with the same cold automated message, repeating in a calm mechanical voice. Terran space is in silent protocol. Communication is restricted. Do not attempt to enter. Those words spread from world to world, replaying endlessly, echoing in markets, starports, war rooms, and broadcast screens until citizens everywhere whispered in dread. Why won't they speak? What are they hiding? Spies were deployed immediately, slipping across borders to gather information. But even the most skilled operatives panicked the moment they reached human space and found something terrifying. Massive Terran warships drifting like giants in total silence. Engines dim, weapons cold, lights off, positioned in perfect formation as if waiting for a single silent command. Their hulls marked with the glowing emblem of Earth. A symbol that suddenly felt less like a flag and more like a warning carved across the stars. Human border stations had no traffic, no chatter, no civilian ships traveling for trade or pleasure. Everything was locked down, sealed, quiet. On the edges of human territory, alien merchants who normally found Terrans friendly and warm now saw only silent dark ships watching from the distance without a single signal of greeting. And deeper inside human space, star systems flickered strangely on scanners. Power grids shifting, massive energy readings pulsing quietly beneath human megacities like a sleeping monster turning in its rest. The galaxy tried to guess the reason for this silence. Some believed humans were preparing for war. Others thought humans had discovered something horrifying. A few ancient species wondered if the humans had encountered something older than time. But the truth was hidden behind layers of Terran encryption so complex that even machine-enhanced minds could not break it. On the distant frost world of Valoth, a small border outpost detected a human fleet moving across the void, slow, coordinated, silent. Hundreds of ships crossing a star system without a single engine flare, as if they were gliding through darkness itself. The Valoth commander nearly fainted when he realized the fleet wasn't moving toward anything. It was moving to block something. Meanwhile on Earth, something extraordinary was happening. The planet that had always been filled with noise, laughter, debate, music, children playing, felt strangely quiet. Streets were calm. Cities glowed softly but not brightly. The skies were clear of civilian traffic. Even the oceans hummed with a low frequency that no alien could understand. The Terran arcology in Geneva, the heart of human government, had become a fortress of whispers. Scientists and admirals moved quickly through secure halls, their expressions sharp with focus. No one smiled. No one joked. Humans, who were known for talking too much, now walked like ghosts through their own cities. Deep beneath the planet's crust, locked inside a vault built for events that would threaten not just humans but reality itself, Terran leaders gathered around a holographic projection of the outer rim. Strange shapes moved on the map, shadows, distortions, rifts that twisted space in ways even Terran physics could barely explain. A silent tension filled the room until an old scientist, voice shaking, whispered, "It has begun again," and every human present nodded, as if they always knew this day would come. Meanwhile, the rest of the galaxy kept drowning in anxiety. Across Helion Prime, worried citizens stared at the council screens, replaying the moment the humans walked out without speaking, their black uniforms blending with the shadows, their faces still and emotionless. Some species tried to comfort their children with soft lies, "The humans will speak tomorrow," but deep inside they knew those words were empty. Humanity had not gone silent because they were angry. Humanity had not gone silent because they were leaving. Humanity had gone silent because they were preparing for something only they knew how to face. And the most terrifying truth was the one whispered in dark corners across 50 star systems. If humans are scared enough to stop talking, then what could possibly be coming? Stars continued to burn. Space continued to stretch. Life continued to move. But under all of it, a quiet tremor spread, because the last time humans fell silent, the galaxy learned what real fear meant. And this silence was deeper, heavier, older. This silence meant something ancient was waking. And humanity was the only species that recognized the sound. Across the far edges of the galaxy, where stars flickered like dying candles and space felt thin as old fabric stretched too many times, the first signs appeared, signs so strange, so unnatural, so deeply wrong that even machines built to ignore fear began sending warnings to their creators, because in the outer rim, where mining ships and research vessels usually drifted peacefully, something began tearing the quiet apart. It started with flickers on deep space scanners, small distortions, harmless shifts, tiny ripples in gravitational readings, nothing dangerous on its own, yet carrying a pattern that Terran scientists recognized instantly, a pattern that froze their blood, a pattern older than human civilization itself. And as those ripples spread, small pirate fleets vanished without a single distress call. Their ships simply erased from existence, as if swallowed by darkness that behaved like a living thing. Trading beacons flickered in and out, entire communication towers collapsed into static, and long-range probes sent images of strange black lines crawling across space like cracks forming in invisible glass. Most species dismissed the anomalies as storms, as glitches, as malfunctioning equipment, but humans did not. Humans watched those black lines with eyes full of memories they wished they could forget. In Terran space, the silence deepened. Scientists shut down public channels. Military fleets repositioned around the rim. Deep-core AIs, entities that almost never woke, lit up their cores, humming in low tones that sounded like old warnings spoken in the language of machines. And while the galaxy debated why humans weren't talking, the truth drifted unseen through the void. Something was coming, something that made even human technology tremble. On a lonely research station near the shattered expanse, a group of alien physicists laughed at human paranoia as they studied the strange ripples, until their scanners captured a single horrifying frame. A huge shadow moving through the distortion, massive, shapeless, silent, absorbing starlight and twisting it into spirals of nothingness. The station commander blinked once, replayed the image, and felt cold fear seep into his bones. "This is not natural," he whispered. "This is not anything we know." But when they tried to warn the council, their transmission was cut, not by interference but by a Terran firewall that blocked it instantly. "Terran space is sealed," the automated human voice repeated. "Do not attempt to send information." The aliens panicked. "Why would the humans silence us?" they cried. But deep inside his chest, the commander understood. Humans weren't just preparing. They were preventing panic. Back on Earth, buried beneath the Terran arcology, The holographic map of the outer rim grew darker with each passing hour. The distortions expanded like spreading cracks under ice. Something was pushing against the fabric of space. Something extremely large. Something extremely old. And something that remembered humanity. The Terran high strategist stared at the map, his jaw tight, his knuckles white as he pressed against the table. "We always knew this could happen," he whispered. "We just prayed it would not happen now." In the silent hall, one of the senior AIs flickered to life, its voice low and heavy. "Probability of catastrophic event. Rising. Probability of non-human survival. Minimal without Terran intervention." The room fell into a deeper silence. No one dared breathe. Meanwhile, the galaxy outside noticed more signs. Energy storms blooming like dark flowers, drifting across empty systems with no star to feed them. Gravity shifting abruptly, pulling ships off course before releasing them like toys. Ancient ruins from extinct civilizations lighting up with symbols that hadn't glowed in millennia. Even the oldest species, those who believed they had seen everything, now found themselves whispering prayers to forgotten gods. But the humans did not pray. They prepared. Terran children stayed home from school without being told why. Terran soldiers sharpened weapons designed for wars no one else remembered. Terran engineers activated black site facilities hidden beneath oceans, beneath deserts, beneath uninhabited moons. And the most terrifying sign came when Earth itself dimmed its planetary shield, only to strengthen it tenfold a moment later, a silent declaration that something was close enough to worry the homeworld. Across thousands of alien worlds, citizens watched human reactors pulse with deep blue energy, watched giant Terran warships turning like wolves scenting a predator, watched Terran gates tightening like clenched fists. Rumors exploded everywhere. Did the humans find a superweapon? Did they awaken an ancient enemy? Are they preparing to attack the galaxy? But the few who truly understood humans whispered something else, something far more chilling. Humans are not preparing to attack us. They are preparing to protect us. In the outer rim, the cracks widened. Lights flickered. Space howled without sound. And deep within that twisting darkness, something enormous opened its eyes. Humanity did not speak. Humanity did not warn. Humanity simply went silent, because they were the only ones who recognized the shape moving in the void. And they knew. The thing the galaxy feared was not coming. It was already here. Across the Galactic Council chamber on Helion Prime, fear had settled so thick that even the air tasted cold, as if the silence humans left behind had seeped into the walls themselves, making every diplomat feel smaller, weaker, more helpless than they had ever felt before. And just when the counselors began arguing about sending fleets toward human borders to investigate, their arguments were shattered by a deep alarm. Echoing through the chamber, one none of them recognized, because it wasn't council-made, wasn't alien-made, wasn't from any empire they knew. It was human. A Terran alert frequency, ancient and rarely used, so old that half the galaxy thought it was a myth. The council screens flickered violently, lights dimming as if something massive had brushed past the station. And then the room went silent as a shadow fell across the skylight. A shadow so large that delegates froze with their mouths half open, their blood turning to ice as they stared upward. A single Terran warship hovered above the council building, quiet as death, its black hull absorbing all light, its engines dimmed to a low blue pulse that felt like a heartbeat echoing across the city. But the strangest part wasn't its size, or the runes glowing across its armor, or even the faint hum that vibrated through the station. It was the ship's silence. No hails, no requests for docking rights, no greetings, nothing but quiet, controlled presence, like a guardian standing at the door of a house before a storm hits. The council elder stumbled to his feet. "Open a channel. They must speak." But before he could finish, the warship opened a shimmering blue aperture beneath it. Slow, deliberate, perfect. And a beam of soft white light shot down into the center of the chamber. The delegates backed away, terrified, some falling to the floor, others clinging to their chairs, believing the humans were about to declare war or strike them down for questioning Terran actions. But instead of soldiers, drones, or weapons, a single, simple hologram appeared. A human figure, faceless, calm, standing with hands behind its back, silent as stone. The chamber held its breath. The hologram did not bow, did not greet them, did not offer comfort. It simply projected a single glowing message into the air. Prepare your worlds. Every delegate froze. Some blinked in confusion, but most felt fear crawl up their spines so fast that they began shaking violently. The message flickered again. Prepare your worlds. Then a final line appeared, one that made even ancient species gasp. Do not ask questions. The hologram disappeared. The ship above the chamber slowly turned, engines barely glowing, moving with the casual grace of a predator who knew no one could challenge it. Then it vanished into slipspace without leaving a single radiation trail, like it had never been there at all. Silence collapsed onto the room again, but this time it felt heavier, suffocating, worse than before. Delegates looked at one another with wide, trembling eyes. Prepare our worlds for what? Why won't they speak? Have they abandoned us? Have they declared war on something we cannot see? Panic spread across the chamber like wildfire. Armies across 50 empires received emergency orders. Fleets scrambled into formation. Shields activated over worlds that hadn't used defenses in centuries. Children cried as alarms echoed through starports. Every species, for the first time ever, moved without hesitation at a human warning. Not because they understood it, but because they were terrified to ignore it. But somewhere deep in the council chamber, a frail old historian from a long-forgotten species whispered the truth only a few remembered. Humans speak when they want peace, he murmured, trembling. But when they stay silent, something is coming that only they understand. And as if the universe itself was listening, the chamber lights flickered again, this time not from the human ship, but from something far darker. Council scanners picked up a distortion in the outer rim. A massive one. A tear in space forming like a wound. A shadow beginning to stretch across entire star systems. Delegates stared at the readings in disbelief, then terror, then pure primal dread. What is that? A diplomat whispered. Another trembled. We thought the humans were preparing for war. But the old historian shook his head slowly, eyes wide. No. They were preparing to save us. Outside, the galaxy trembled as a massive, unnatural ripple spread across the stars like a giant hand pressing against reality. And for the first time in history, the galaxy finally understood why the humans refused to speak. They weren't being arrogant. They weren't being distant. They weren't being hostile. They were being silent because they were the only species that recognized the shadow now crawling into the galaxy. And they knew words would only cause panic. The humans had spoken only one command. Prepare your worlds. Now the galaxy understood why. Something ancient was coming, and humanity had gone silent, because the time for talking was over. Across the trembling darkness of the outer rim, where stars flickered like frightened eyes and ancient space drifted in slow, uneasy breaths, the first real tear in reality finally split open, not like a crack or a wound but like something alive forcing its way into the galaxy, pushing against the fabric of space until the very laws of physics bent and screamed. At first, it was just a thin black line stretching across empty void, as harmless as a shadow, but then it widened, thickened, twisted, stretching outward like a mouth slowly opening, swallowing starlight until the surrounding region looked like a night with no stars at all, a void within a void. Long-range sensors in nearby systems collapsed into static, their readings spiking wildly before dying completely. Beacons went offline. Outposts lost communication. Even automated satellites began spinning uncontrollably, as if something huge had just brushed past them with a force no one could describe. On dozens of alien worlds, alarms began ringing. Scientists screamed at screens, demanding answers their instruments couldn't give. Fleets scrambled into formation, captains shouting orders they barely understood. Yet even in the chaos, one thing was clear. Whatever was coming wasn't natural, wasn't cosmic, wasn't a storm or a creature or a fleet. No, it was something older, deeper, something that made every species feel suddenly small and unprepared, like children standing barefoot in the snow of a dead planet. The tear widened again, and this time the entire region shook. Space trembled like a living creature in pain. Gravity rippled through the void, pulling asteroids off their orbits, twisting light into spirals that defied physics, bending radio waves into silent screams. Observers on nearby stations watched helplessly as a colossal shadow moved behind the tear, too large to measure, its shape constantly shifting, as if it wasn't one thing but millions of things joined together by hunger. Some said it looked like wings. Some said it looked like tendrils. Some said it was simply darkness given shape. But all agreed on one thing. That thing was not from their galaxy. On Helion Prime, when the Council received the first visual recording, a silence heavier than death fell across the chamber. The Council elder dropped his staff. A representative fainted. Others held their heads, whispering prayers, their bodies shaking uncontrollably. "This cannot be real," someone murmured. "We would have seen something like this before," another insisted. But the old historian, the only one who had seen fragments of forbidden records stored in ancient vaults, whispered, "Humans saw it. Long ago. That is why they went silent." Meanwhile, in the heart of Terran space, the response was not fear but preparation. Deep under Earth's crust, vault doors thicker than mountains opened slowly, releasing faint white mist into air that had not been touched for centuries. Massive machines, older than many civilizations, awakened with slow, heavy pulses of blue light. Terran AIs hummed in low tones that felt like ancient chants. Human scientists stood around a holographic projection of the tier, their faces grim, eyes hard, not surprised, just resigned, like people meeting a monster they always knew would return. Still, no human outside the Terran core spoke a word. Their silence wrapped around the galaxy like a cold blanket. On the moon of Orion's rift, a group of alien astronomers recorded the tier widening again. They sent the footage to the Council, but before the file sent, an automated Terran firewall blocked it with the same chilling words. "Terran protocols active. Do not transmit data." The astronomers panicked. Why are they blocking us? Why are they hiding this? But deep down, their hearts already knew the answer. Humanity wasn't hiding the threat. Humanity was hiding knowledge of it. Knowledge so terrifying the galaxy wasn't ready for it. Outpost after outpost near the tear went dark. Dying. Silent. Ships sent to investigate vanished without leaving wreckage. Time itself began to behave strangely in the region. Clocks ran slower, then faster, then stopped entirely. Some sensors picked up faint whispers, voices repeating fractured words that sounded like memories breaking. Others detected nothing at all. And through all this chaos, all this confusion, all this rising panic, one thing remained constant. Humanity said nothing, but their fleets did. Terran warships began moving in the outer edges of their territory, forming a colossal wall of steel and blue light facing the tear. Dreadnoughts, ships so powerful the galaxy thought them myths, emerged from dark hyperspace tunnels. Human soldiers marched in silence across docking bays, their armor glowing faintly, weapons humming with energy no one had ever seen. It was as if the entire Terran species had been waiting for this moment for generations, training for a battle they knew was coming, a battle the galaxy didn't even understand. And when a terrified ambassador from the Zyran Empire sent a direct message begging for an explanation, begging the humans to speak, he received only a short, simple reply in an automated voice. "Terran silence will continue. Do not interfere." Across thousands of alien worlds, beings huddled around glowing screens replaying the footage of the tear, replaying the shadow that moved behind it, replaying the moment the galaxy changed forever. And parents whispered to their children, "Why won't the humans speak?" But elders, historians, scholars, those who understood the weight of silence, answered with trembling voices, because they cannot afford to talk. They are preparing for something worse than war. The tier widened one last time, stretching across the sector like a gigantic black scar. Space shook. Stars flickered. A massive shape pushed against the opening, almost through. The galaxy froze, but Terran fleets did not. They turned toward the darkness with engines glowing like the heartbeat of a god, forming a wall of light between the universe and whatever crawled out of the void. Humanity remained silent. Their ships did not. And the galaxy understood the truth behind that silence. When humans refuse to speak, it means the universe is about to break. Across the trembling edges of the galaxy where the tear in space widened like a monstrous eye opening for the first time in millions of years, the growing shadow began pressing harder against reality. Pushing through with a hunger that felt older than stars, an alien fleet stationed near the rim finally broke, sending desperate distress calls filled with screams, static, and fragments of dying voices as entire squadrons flickered off scanners one by one, devoured before their weapons even finished charging. The galaxy trembled in pure terror. Worlds locked down. Civilizations prayed. Empires panicked. Council members argued until their throats bled. But still, humanity said nothing. Terran ships remained silent as stone, lined in perfect formation at the border of their space, their engines pulsing slowly like calm breaths before battle, their weapons inactive but ready, their shields humming with power so dense that nearby sensors crackled from the energy field alone. It was the calm of a species that feared nothing except speaking too early. The calm before a storm that only humans understood. Deep inside the Terran arcology, underground in a chamber made of metal older than Earth's continents, the leaders of humanity finally gathered for the first time since the silent protocol activated. Admirals in dark uniforms stood side by side with scientists holding trembling data pads, while ancient Terran AIs flickered above them in translucent blue projections, their voices low like distant thunder. At the center of the room, a hologram of the tier rotated slowly, showing the horrifying truth. The creature pushing through wasn't alone. More shadows moved behind it. Dozens, hundreds, thousands. An entire swarm of void-born entities gathering behind the first one, waiting for the wound in space to break open fully. Humanity knew this enemy, not from stories, not from legends, from experience. Something their ancestors buried deep in forbidden records. Something they fought long before joining the Council. Something the galaxy never believed existed. A weaponized silence fell across the room as the Terran High Commander stepped forward, his voice trembling but steady as he looked at the projections. "The swarm of the Black Rift," he whispered. "They found the galaxy again." A few gasps broke through the silence. Others stood frozen, hearts sinking as they realized why humanity had sealed itself away, why they refused to speak, why they pulled all their forces inward, why their laughter, their noise, their light had vanished. They were preparing for extinction-level war. One scientist, her eyes wet with fear, whispered, "We don't have enough time." The tier is widening faster than predicted. But the High Commander shook his head slowly. "We have been preparing for this for generations. Time is not what we need. Silence is what we needed." For silence kept panic small. Silence protected the weak. Silence bought them the moments necessary to activate the old weapons, the old fleets, the old protocols created in times when humanity fought alone in the dark. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, scanners everywhere lit up with bright red alerts as the first creature finally broke through the tear. The same creature whose shadow had haunted hundreds of systems. It was vast, its body shifting like liquid darkness wrapped around a skeleton of impossible geometry. Its eyes glowing like dying stars as it let out a silent roar, a roar that shook space itself. Alien fleets fired everything they had, torpedoes, plasma beams, gravity bombs, but the creature simply absorbed the attacks like sparks hitting the ocean. One massive swing of its tendril shattered a cruiser into dust. Another absorbed a military satellite. Ships fled in every direction, their screams echoing across open channels. "We can't stop it. We can't." The transmission cut. And still, the humans said nothing. They watched, studied, calculated. They waited for the creature to cross one final invisible line. A line no other species noticed. But humanity did. Because that was the moment when the creature became a threat to the entire galaxy. Not just the rim. On Helion Prime, the Council was in chaos. Where are the humans? Why won't they speak? Are they abandoning us? Are they letting us die? But then something happened that froze every voice in the chamber. A soft, calm tone echoed through every speaker across the galaxy. A human tone. Smooth, cold, final. Terran silence is ending. The council chamber went still. Worlds fell quiet. Ships stopped mid-flight. Even the void creature seemed to pause, as if sensing the shift in the stars. Then humanity spoke again, this time with a voice that shook the universe. "We are coming." And at that exact moment, every Terran warship in the galaxy lit its engines in perfect unison. Thousands of blue flares ignited across Terran space, shining so bright that satellites orbiting alien worlds recorded light spikes without understanding the source. The human fleets turned as one, forming a massive spear formation pointing directly at the tear in the outer rim. The High Commander raised his hand. The most feared and most respected order in Terran history was spoken. "Operation Black Shield, begin." Across the galaxy, the humans unleashed their full might. Dreadnoughts emerged from hidden bases beneath frozen oceans. Planetary cannons awakened on distant moons. Terraforming reactors transformed into war engines. Newly activated AIs projected complex battle paths through spacetime itself. And the galaxy finally understood the truth behind humanity's terrifying silence. They were not preparing to save themselves. They were preparing to save everyone. Even the species that feared them. Even the species that hated them. Even the species that never thanked them. Because the humans knew the creatures in the dark, and the creatures in the dark knew the humans. Across the dark frontier where the tear in space pulsed like a bleeding wound, the first creature of the Rift Swarm lunged fully into the galaxy, its colossal form twisting like living shadow wrapped around a nightmare, tendrils stretching for miles, eyes glowing with empty hunger, and as it expanded its wings of darkness, it released a silent shockwave that shattered patrol fleets into dust and bent starlight into spirals of broken time, leaving entire sectors frozen in fear as the galaxy watched through trembling screens, realizing that nothing they had ever fought, nothing they had ever imagined, nothing in all recorded history compared to this ancient terror crawling its way back into existence. The creature roared without sound, a vibration that made planets quake and moons crumble, swallowing a battle station whole before any distress call reached the Council. And just when it seemed unstoppable, just when the galaxy accepted that extinction had finally come, something bright appeared in the darkness. Small at first, like a star flickering into life, but then multiplying, spreading, growing into a vast armada of blue fire. Humanity had arrived. The Terran fleets burst from hyperspace in perfect formation, engines burning like the breath of a newborn sun, dreadnoughts lined in massive columns with glowing runes etched into their armored hulls, and leading them all, like a spear aimed at the heart of a god, was the Tienis Valiant, humanity's oldest and strongest warship, its hull carved with the names of every lost human colony, Eleron 3 among them, glowing bright for the first time since the silent protocol began. The galaxy watched from billions of screens, hearts pounding, breaths stuck in throats as human warships accelerated with impossible speed, forming a wall of blue shields between the creature and the nearest inhabited system, positioning themselves as if they had practiced this maneuver for centuries, and in truth, they had. Humanity opened a single channel across the galaxy, a voice so calm and steady that it felt like an anchor cast into a stormy sea. "This is Terran Command. Begin evacuation of all systems within 7 sectors. We will hold the line." And those words, simple but absolute, spread across worlds like a miracle. Even species who once mocked humans now obeyed instantly because when humanity finally broke their silence, they didn't speak like diplomats. They spoke like guardians. As the rift creature lunged at the human front, Terran dreadnoughts fired synchronized beams of condensed star plasma, the blasts tearing through the creature's outer tendrils, making it recoil with a scream that shook every ship within 100 light-years. But the creature regenerated instantly, its wounds closing as if time itself bent backward for it, and it surged forward again, angrier, larger, hungrier, its tendrils striking like lightning storms made of shadow, colliding with human shields in a burst of blue fire that illuminated the void. Terran shields flickered but held. Human soldiers across thousands of ships clenched their fists, teeth grinding, eyes burning with determination as alarms blared and hulls shook. But not a single human fled. Not a single ship broke formation. Not a single voice trembled. For humanity knew this enemy. Humanity remembered the last time the Rift Swarm came. Humanity remembered the price their ancestors paid. Humanity would not let history repeat. The creature swung one massive claw toward the Valiant, and for a moment, it seemed like the ship would shatter, but then dozens of human frigates darted in front of it, forming a barrier that absorbed the strike, sacrificing themselves without hesitation. Fire lit the void as the frigates exploded, but behind the flames, the Valiant surged forward, its engines roaring like thunder as it fired a beam so powerful that the stars dimmed around it. The creature shrieked again, its massive form rippling in agony, its outer shell peeling in great slabs before reforming like liquid shadow. Watching species gasped. How can they fight that? How can they stand against something that size? But an old alien general answered with a trembling whisper. Because they are human. Human ships, Dove. Climbed, spun, forming spirals of energy patterns that confused the creature's senses. Terran AIs calculated millions of trajectories per second, guiding each ship through the chaos. Human soldiers boarded weapon platforms built into the sides of dreadnoughts, firing quantum charges directly into the creature's tendons. The galaxy watched in disbelief as a species once mocked as noisy and emotional fought with impossible precision, like a single mind controlling 10,000 vessels. The creature struck again, ripping through a Terran destroyer with a sweep of its tendril, and grief washed across the fleet. But not fear, never fear. Instead, the Valiant opened all its energy cores, releasing a blinding white halo that cut the tendril clean off, sending the creature recoiling with another silent shriek. On Helion Prime, ambassadors cried, some falling to their knees as they watched humanity fight like warriors pulled from ancient myths, their entire fleets moving as one, forming arcs of blue light across the void, refusing to break, refusing to fall. Then it happened. The tier widened again, revealing more shadows moving inside it. Reinforcements, more rift creatures, more hunger, more nightmares. But instead of panicking, instead of faltering, instead of freezing, humanity did something that shook the entire universe. They accelerated. The Terran fleets surged forward, engines burning hotter than any recorded output, pushing toward the tear with suicidal determination. Alien observers couldn't understand. Why are they charging? They'll die. But an ancient voice whispered softly, no, they are closing the tier. And the moment that truth settled into the galaxy, something incredible happened. Every Terran battleship activated their rift shields, a technology humans never shared, never explained, never allowed anyone to study. Glowing blue wings of energy extending from their hulls, forming a massive barrier like a shield of starlight. The rift creature lunged, but the barrier held. Humanity pushed forward inch by inch, fighting the creature back, forcing it toward the tear. The galaxy watched with tears in their eyes, their fear slowly turning into awe, then into respect, then into something deeper, faith. Because humanity didn't fight for glory, or territory, or pride. They fought because if they didn't, no one else could. And as the Terran fleets pushed harder, weapons glowing brighter, shadows screaming louder, the galaxy finally understood the meaning of human silence. They were silent because they were preparing for this. They were silent because they carried the weight of the past. They were silent because they were about to save the galaxy. Across the shattered edge of the outer rim, where the void glowed with torn pieces of reality and human warships burned against the darkness like sparks fighting the night, the final battle reached its breaking point, and while the galaxy watched through trembling screens, hearts frozen, breaths caught halfway, humanity stood unbroken at the edge of annihilation, pushing forward with a fury that seemed to rise from the very soul of their species. The rift creature roared without sound, its massive wings of shadow tearing through space as more void-born horrors pressed against the widening tier behind it, their glowing eyes watching the battle with hungry anticipation, each waiting for its turn to break into the galaxy. But humanity refused to let them pass. Terran ships circled the creature like angry stars, their cannons firing in steady patterns, their shields burning bright until entire hulls shook under the force of blows that could crush moons. And yet not one ship broke formation, not one captain retreated, not one soldier hesitated. The TNS Valiant, its armor cracked and glowing from internal strain, surged ahead again, blazing like a falling comet as its engines ignited at maximum thrust, pushing the creature backward inch by inch, and as the darkness fought, the galaxy wept, because no other species had ever stood between extinction and survival like humanity did now. On alien worlds, children clutched their parents' hands, watching human ships burn and break and still push forward, whispering, "Why do they fight so hard?" And their parents, with tears on their cheeks, whispered back, "Because they are human. They don't let the universe die." The rift creature slammed its massive core into the Valiant, cracks forming across the hull like fractures in ancient stone. But the human crew held their ground, gripping consoles, blood running from their eyebrows, shouting to each other with fierce determination as they poured every ounce of power into the final push. In the Terran arcology on Earth, the High Commander stood before a room full of trembling officers, his voice steady as he issued the final order, one that had been written centuries ago for this exact moment. Activate the Gatebreaker Protocol. Across the human fleet, buried systems awakened. Massive blue crystals pulsed inside reactors, quantum engines roared, ancient weapons locked into position, glowing runes etched by lost Terran civilizations ignited with white fire. And then, as if the fleet itself took a final breath, the protocol activated. Every Terran warship connected their shields, forming a colossal dome of light that surrounded the rift creature and the tier behind it, glowing brighter and brighter until stars dimmed around it. The creature shrieked again, thrashing violently, tearing apart 3 dreadnoughts with a single sweep of its limbs. But humanity did not falter. They pressed harder, pushed deeper, forced the creature backward with a wall of burning energy so bright it blinded every sensor in the sector. Council screens everywhere went white. The galaxy waited, trembling, breathless. Then the scream came. A soundless shockwave ripped through space, the creature's body twisting in agony as the Gatebreaker Protocol hit its core directly, collapsing its form inward like a dying star imploding. Its wings folded, its tendrils shattered, its body fractured into pieces of shadow that dissolved like smoke in sun. And then, finally, brutally, the creature exploded into nothing. The rift trembled violently behind it, cracks spreading across its edges like broken glass pulled inward. And as humanity poured every ounce of power into the Gatebreaker, the tier began to shrink. Slowly, painfully, but surely, human ships burned. Engines overheated. Hulls ruptured. But they did not stop. The TNS Valiant, its structure groaning under the strain, transmitted one final message to the galaxy. A message in a calm, quiet voice that echoed through millions of speakers. To all civilizations, the threat is contained. Humanity will hold the line. Do not fear the silence. It is our burden to carry. And with those words, the Valiant rammed itself directly into the collapsing tier, releasing a final blast of energy that sealed the wound completely, leaving nothing behind but drifting ash and fading blue light. The ship was gone. The crew gone with it. The tier sealed forever. A silence deeper than anything before spread across the galaxy. Not a silence of fear this time, but a silence of awe, of grief, of respect. Entire worlds fell still. Council members bowed their heads. Species that once mocked humans now whispered their names like prayers. On Helion Prime, the council elder wiped tears from his ancient eyes as he declared, "Humanity has saved us all." Across alien worlds, children asked, "Will the humans speak again?" And their elders answered softly, "Yes, when the galaxy is safe." Back on Earth, after minutes, hours of quiet mourning, the Terran High Commander stepped before a global broadcast, voice heavy with sorrow and pride. "The Valiant is lost. The tear is sealed. The swarm is defeated. We will rebuild. We will honor the fallen. And we will speak again." And with those final words, humanity broke their silence at last. Fleets returned home battered but alive. The galaxy breathed again. Hope returned. And carved across the stars in memory of those who vanished into the rift, one truth burned brighter than ever. When humanity goes silent, the universe listens. When humanity prepares, the darkness trembles. And when humanity fights, they save entire galaxies.